John Scarborough, and I am the co-founder of Silicon STEM Academy. Silicon STEM Academy is really a technical training facility for primarily middle and high school students. We focus specifically on computer programming classes, robotics, electronics, as well as digital media classes. So think Photoshop, video editing, Minecraft modding, 3D game design. It's very popular. So a host of different types of classes within each one of those primary categories. It's also interesting, while we originally were targeting middle and high school students, we also have a lot of adults who have joined us as well. They might be parents of some of our students, they might be teachers who are looking to develop their own STEM curriculum to be able to carry it back into their schools, and it might just be general enthusiasts as well. So the number one thing that all of our students really want to learn how to code, no real surprise, video games. Number one, bar none, single biggest thing that every middle and high school student rips in here who wants to learn is to be able to do video games. The challenge, though, is that they don't understand that to design a video game, it is as much to do about creativity. So think of the landscapes, the textures, the characters, the animation, the look and the feel of the game, but it has that much more to do with the coding, with the underlying computer programming that's required to make it all work. I think there's very little appreciation for the fact that that any of these technology pursuits are in fact pursuits. They take a long time. You can't just roll in here and take a couple, take a class and roll out of here and become a video game designer. It's a pursuit. It takes time. It's not unlike being a rock star. You have to learn from open chords on a guitar all the way through to soloing. If you are a professional soccer player, professional dancer, these are pursuits. It takes years, and this is the same way. So these students are getting a very eye-opening experience when they roll in here. They want to design a video game. It's a very technical and complicated thing to do. Great question. So it really requires, as I was saying, two fundamental understandings. One is more of the creative aspect and the animation components, and then the other is computer programming. So as far as the creative aspect, we utilize a number of different applications that we teach our students. One is a program called Blender, which is used for animation, and Blender is very portable into Unity. Unity is one of the primary game engines, commercial strength kind of game engines that is out on the market today. It was used, for example, to design Pokemon Go. It's highly complicated, but it's a very rich program and a great program to be able to build a video game off of. As far as the underlying computer programming is concerned, Unity, for example, requires C# as its programming language. So in order to get to C#, typically we're walking a progression of classes, our students through this progression, starting with, depending on their prior knowledge, Coding 101. We really like to go into JavaScript as our next language, mainly because it's a really great way of understanding variables and booleans and syntax in general to Java, and then Java is similar to C and C#. So there's kind of two tracks that you have to go down in order to really get into this world of video game design. Considered a few of the gamification platforms out there, but just haven't figured out the right one for us yet. We use a little bit of gamification today in really only one or two of our classes. Any of the classes where we're using a particular LMS that is already enabled with very basic functions, gamification functions. So, for example, it has badges, and as you complete certain levels, it has a rudimentary form of leaderboards that we can use as teachers, but it's not really shared with the other students. So when I'm thinking of being able to award certificates, leaderboarding functions, quiz awards, awards for accomplishment, the ability to have communications back and forth among different teams. We really don't have that kind of platform yet. But I gotta tell you, I think it would be extremely helpful for us. I also think it's a key differentiator for our programs versus what is these students are seeing in school, which they don't see any of this in kind of regular school. And but I think they're very used to it, having, again, for the most part, being kind of from that gaming culture and environment, that it's intuitive to them. It's a very natural thing, normal thing for them. A lot of these kiddos too, it's interesting, our student population, they are, they're typically not the sports kid, they're not the music kid, but yet they understand that there's this thing called competition, and that they want to compete, they want to come up with the best program, the coolest robot, the highest functioning, etc., whatever it might be. So being able to use incentives, rewards, and recognition through a gamification platform would be great for us. But again, right now, I think we're really limited in the platforms that we have access to.
Okay.
I think there is such a thing as too much gamification in the classroom, and that there are some potential pitfalls. I think it will be interesting over the next couple of years to figure out the balance point between too much and really just what is the right amount. I think certain classes, by the way, will lend themselves to more or less gamification. For example, I know in most of the public schools here in Colorado, the average number of students per class is over 35 students. So I think one of the biggest challenges is the facilitation the teacher facilitation of these gamification platforms. They become very difficult, and sometimes they're too time consuming for the teacher to really manage. So that, I believe, is too much. From a student perspective and a student experience, I think it can cause hyper competition that could very well be unhealthy, when some of school really needs to be fun and not about the grade, not about the achievement, but just about the social and emotional and mental support that being in an environment of learning should provide a student. So I think it's all about finding that balance. Yeah, great question. So I've talked to a number of CEOs that I've just worked with over the years, and I think there are two common themes here associated with is it time to gamify content. Number one is a radical change in the demographic of their employee population. So as the millennials and the Generation Zs are entering the workforce, Generation Z entering the workforce compared to the millennials, there is a greater natural tendency of looking for more professional online learning opportunities that are gamified, because this is the generation that's very comfortable in that space. So it's being driven by the audience change. That's number one. Number two is there's always, of course, an obsolescence issue associated with training content to begin with. So there's always this need to provide this constant updating of materials, away from PowerPoint slides and video clips, but more towards online learning that's engaging, that's providing interactivity, and it's supporting kind of this expectation among this audience change that we're referring to. And it's a very recurring theme. I think all companies are wrestling with this right now, and they're trying to figure out what does it mean to them. They have to refactor their content. They have to put it into a more current LMS. They have to gamify it in such a way, and they have to be able to utilize it as a communications mechanism and employee engagement mechanism, all at the same time. It's a big challenge, and as far as I can tell, there's no one single answer quite yet. But I do think it's a big opportunity for new companies to enter this space, because I think the need is there. Yes, I absolutely believe that there's a really nice opportunity in this marketplace, but I don't think it's going to be easy either. In my opinion, it's kind of a third. There are kind of three big challenges that are faced. One is educational skills, awareness, kind of that aspect. Then you have the technical aspects, and then you have this gamification component. So a third. As far as education is concerned, that's the understanding of how do you write the curriculum, what's the lesson plan, what's the pedagogy, how all of the content. So there's this very real aspect to education for it to be effective at all, right? That the content is correct. The second third is the technical aspect. So, refactoring of content into an online format is a challenge in itself. You have to make sure that it's programmed correctly, that it's in the right reinvention of PowerPoint slides and video clips, but it's engaging, it's interactive, it's well done from a technical perspective. Then the third big component is gamifying it. And of course, gamification means so many different things to so many different people. Whatever the ultimate definition is, it has to be customized to the needs of the audience and for the meeting of the objectives of the business to begin with. Some businesses may not want lots of gamification, but just some level of gamification for leaderboarding and the basics. So I think the direction is right. I think the market is moving in that direction. I think the companies that I've worked with, they're all asking the same questions. But now it's sort of like how it took movies 5 or 6 years to kind of get 3D correct with the right glasses and the right level of 3D content. I think it's the same thing with this. It's the right level and mix of gamification, content engagement with relevant content.
Okay.